Ladies and gentlemen, India has won peace. It says it is on the side of peace, but it is capable of giving a befitting reply if provoked. With that one line, Prime Minister Narendra Modi expressed India's resolve today in a stern message to China. Prime Minister Modi said that India would go all out to protect its sovereignty and territorial integrity. At the same time, he paid tribute to our 20 braves who went down fighting. The Prime Minister said, "Marte marte mare hain," and vowed that their supreme sacrifice will not go in vain. Listen in to the Prime Minister's statement made at 3 p.m. this afternoon.
हम कभी किसी को भी उकसाते नहीं हैं, लेकिन हम अपने देश की अखंडता और संप्रभुता के साथ समझौता भी नहीं करते हैं। जब भी समय आया है, हमने देश की अखंडता और संप्रभुता की रक्षा करने में अपनी शक्ति का प्रदर्शन किया है, अपनी क्षमताओं को साबित किया है। त्याग और तितिक्षा हमारे राष्ट्रीय चरित्र का हिस्सा है, लेकिन साथ ही विक्रम और वीरता भी उतना ही हमारे देश के चरित्र का हिस्सा है। मैं देश को भरोसा दिलाना चाहता हूं, हमारे जवानों का बलिदान व्यर्थ नहीं जाएगा। हमारे लिए भारत की अखंडता और संप्रभुता सर्वोच्च है, और इसकी रक्षा करने से हमें कोई भी रोक नहीं सकता। इस बारे में किसी को भी जरा भी भ्रम या संदेह नहीं होना चाहिए। भारत शांति चाहता है, लेकिन भारत उकसाने पर हर हाल में यथोचित जवाब देने में सक्षम है। और हमारे दिवंगत शहीद वीर जवानों के विषय में देश को इस बात का गर्व होगा कि वे मारते मारते मरे हैं।
Ladies and gentlemen, pictures don't lie. Times Now has accessed satellite images that bust China's lies. No, they were never intending to vacate the Galwan Valley. They were never intending to honor the de-escalation agreement reached on the 6th of June. The proof is now staring the deceitful dragon back in the face. The pictures on your screen are from June 16, the day after the attack on our braves. And these pictures reveal that not just troops, but carriers that had the ability to carry many soldiers at a time, and several dozen med-evac vehicles were also stationed at the Galwan Valley. Athar Khan gives us a clear perspective on what was going on in this part of the Galwan Valley, which falls into the Chinese boundary.
Two images that are very telling here. This is from an open source website. This is something called Planet Labs. It's a commercial satellite. The resolution is not that high. But look at what we're trying to show you. I'm just going to enhance this image. This is the motorable pass on the Chinese side of the Galwan Valley. There is troop movement, heavy amassment of troop carriers here. These could be ambulances. These could be medevac carriers. These could be trucks and buses used to ferry troops around. But look at the concentration of these vehicles. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Starting right right up here, going about here, more troop carriers over here, more medivacs, could be ambulances, we don't know because the high resolution is not there. It's a commercial satellite after all. But this goes on and snakes around to over here, more concentration of troop carriers over here, what looks like troop carriers at least. This is one picture, and the other picture I want to show you right now very quickly. It's a slightly clearer view of the same area, the Chinese side of the Galwan Valley. If you start from here, this is the same motorable pass, massive concentration of what looks like is troop increase. This could be vehicles, these could be ambulances, these could be medivac carriers. Again, heavy concentration over here, snakes up right up till here, goes on till here. All these white spots that you see, again I say this is not high resolution because this is commercial satellite, but clearly one cannot miss the intent of the Chinese here. What was the need for so many troops and troop carriers in this particular area if the Chinese were not pre-planning and premeditating something sinister?
Well, that's the case that I want to present to you viewers tonight, and let me tell you right up the steps India is taking to put these cowards back in their place. Without mincing their words, the Ministry of External Affairs in its official statement today has made this point, and they have said that the attack on our braves in Galwan Valley was premeditated and pre-planned. Soon thereafter, the crucial India, Russia, China trilateral which was scheduled for 22nd of June has been indefinitely postponed. There is an alliance with the nation's sentiment that we will not engage with a nation that believes in treacherous killing of our soldiers. India has also ordered a massive scale up of our forces along the entire stretch of the line of actual control with China, not just limited to Ladakh, but also in Himachal, Uttarakhand, Sikkim to as far as Arunachal. Troops are being readied for any eventuality, and weaponry is also on standby. Not just on land, Indian Navy is also gearing up for a massive readiness. Sources have told Times Now that at least 7 to 8 warships have been deployed in the Indian Ocean so that the Indian Ocean remains just that, Indian. And that's not all. India will also punish China economically. While the world is beginning to laud a Balwan Bharat, India hints at a pushback on import tariffs. Also, top trade body CAIT, which deals with electronic goods, has said that Indian stars should not endorse any Chinese brands. So we can hit them where it hurts the most. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what India wants to do, and the legitimate question on the news are tonight. Modi wants China. Why won't the opposition parties back Modi? That's the question. India will punish China is the big debate on the other side.
You're watching the News Hour at 9. Debate number 1 on Times Now. Super Prime Time.
And joining me right on top of the news hour is Kamal Sibal, former Foreign Secretary, and General Bikram Singh, former Army Chief. And General Bikram Singh, what is a professional army which attacks soldiers where there is an agreement on de-escalation, but attacks soldiers of the opposite side with iron rods and actually ends up killing 20 of our braves? Can China be now, despite the to and fro of conversations on the diplomatic level and on the military level, can India now take China at face value?
Look, Nandita, you called the Chinese army, the PLA, as a professional army. It is not a professional army. I think it's the most unprofessional army, because professional armies conduct themselves as per Geneva Conventions, certain rules which are laid down, rules of engagement. And in this particular case, the rules of engagement are those which have been ratified politically as well, within those agreements of 1993, 1996, 2005, and 2013. So it's a treachery, I would say, that despite the fact that they were making statements that they would pull back, and when our party went in to sort of check them, this is what they did. But yes, we must understand, deceit, deception is part of the strategy of China. If you read Sun Tzu, the Art of War, written by Sun Tzu, he emphasizes deception throughout in that book. And this is one thing which China has inherited, and China would continue to deceive and resort to deception. as far as its the national strategy is concerned, its military strategy is concerned, and we got to be mindful of it. We cannot take them at face value. And you're right. What has happened now in this case is I think we got to have our guard up. Given the fact that the Prime Minister has made a very strong statement he's given, I suppose he's opened the options right from tactical level to the strategic level for the military. But also, of course, he's given the caution that it would be the last resort that India would undertake. Because he intends giving diplomacy, political negotiations a chance so that the issue is resolved amicably and we don't have to use force. But I'm certain that given what the Prime Minister has said today, the military is already mobilized. It is well placed, well positioned to make sure that whatever challenges come on the line of actual control are dealt with appropriately.
Well, Mr. Kamal Sibal, India has pulled out of the RIC, Russia, India, China meeting on 22nd of June and has postponed this indefinitely. Do you think diplomatically this issue can be resolved? Because China may have taken a position where it is trying to distract attention of the world away from the fact that China is feeling the pressure as far as, the COVID, COVID emanating from China and China keeping the rest of the world completely clueless about it. The fact that it is taking action against Australia, Taiwan, Hong Kong, South China Sea. Do you think diplomatically this issue can be resolved? And the satellite pictures which show us that China probably predetermined manner went for this strike against our Jawans, because we see all those vehicles present in the satellite pictures on the 16th of June and they couldn't have put them there if they hadn't planned this entire fracas in the Galwan Valley which happened on the midnight of 15th June.
Look, when you say diplomatically resolve our problems with China, but look at the history of our relations with China diplomatically. They oppose our permanent membership of the Security Council. They oppose our membership of the NSG after they tried to 3 times take the Kashmir issue back to the United Nations Security Council. They have been protecting Pakistan on terrorism, as we saw in the case of Masood Azhar. Then you have the CPEC, knowing that it violates Indian territory. Now, all these are diplomatic issues, but there has never been any give on the Chinese side on issues of core interest to us politically and diplomatically. Now, we have the SR representatives, which was a diplomatic initiative taken by India to which China responded, to have special representatives nominated by the 2 leaders to look for a political solution to the border issue, a diplomatic initiative. 22 meetings have been held. Nothing has been achieved so far. Now, we had Depsang, we had Chumar, we had Doklam. Diplomacy got into action. There were military negotiations too, but diplomacy got into action and they were resolved. But there's no permanent resolution. Now we've had this huge, massive attack by these fellows in Ladakh and earlier in Sikkim. So when you say diplomatic solution, it can be temporary, it can be case by case, but there is no permanent diplomatic solution that China is ready to promote, because the real diplomatic solution would be a resolution of the border issues preceded by, which is feasible, a clarification of the LAC. That's a diplomatic decision, but they're not taking that. So I don't think we should at all be surprised at China's action. They've always been deceptive. The general has spoken about Sun Tzu, but we don't need to go back to Sun Tzu to understand how the Chinese behave. We've experienced it ourselves, right from the time that they occupied Tibet and started claiming Indian territory and built this road in Aksai Chin. So China is going to be very difficult for us. It is a strategic adversary. We can't break our relations with China. That's not possible. So we will have to engage China, but in a different spirit. And from now on, the level of mistrust, distrust has to be much deeper. We have to be far more careful. Despite 14 meetings between our Prime Minister and Xi Jinping, despite these informal summits, at the end of the day, they have staged this massive attack in Ladakh. So it is a challenge for us how to keep China engaged in a different way, and yet now protect our interests. And I must applaud the Prime Minister. He has made a very, very strong statement. It's not only meant for the Indian public. He has directly warned Xi Jinping that we will take decisive action if you provoke us. It's a very strong message. And he knows the consequences of this message. And now we see how the Chinese respond. I don't think it'll be easy. China also is very strong. It has the capacity to do mischief. It has got away with mischief in the South China Sea. It is opposing the United States of America. It will not easily accept a defeat in Ladakh to India. Therefore, we have a massive task ahead of maintaining a degree of, stability in our relations, but continue to counter China. And I'll end by saying that what we need is to counter them militarily on the border, but open our political space for ourselves, which we are not doing. And I've been saying this repeatedly. Please, for heaven's sake, do something on Tibet, do something on Dalai Lama, do something on Taiwan. These are China's core interests. And I've listed to you how they have actually undermined and hit at our core interests, but we don't hit at the core interests. Therefore, the answer is both military, stand up to them, be firm, but open our political fronts against them on issues which they think are their core interests. That is the way to go.
General Bikram Singh, I want to ask you, the satellite images that we saw, the build-up that we saw on the 16th of June, which shows vehicles clearly standing there in anticipation, probably of what was a premeditated attack on our soldiers. Would you agree with that assessment?
Of course, Nandita. The kind of build-up that has taken place, the number of vehicles, if you count the total number of habitat, the trends over there, it's about a brigade-sized force which has come over there. And they couldn't have come overnight. They have come with an intent. And I suppose we got to look at options that we got with ourselves to perhaps dislodge them from there. Just a word about Mr. Sibal. He's talked about, he spoke firstly that politically, diplomatically, China has not allowed us to achieve a lot of things in the United Nations and the international fora. And then he talks of opening the political space. I fail to understand what political space is he talking about. Look, Indian Army has given peace and tranquility since 1993 on the line of actual control. The entire thing has been held up at the political level. Let's be very clear. The entire border dispute is to be resolved at the diplomatic and political levels. So he must understand, he's talked about Sun Tzu. I found a tongue-in-cheek comment of his. He must understand that, like we talk in terms of Chanakya as part of our national strategy and military strategy, China does that. And he must know that I'm also a master's in strategic studies from United States. I understand fully well the war fighting and how nations behave. But I've just a point over here. Nandita, the issue is that, when nations go to war, it is not just the military. A situation has come where the Prime Minister has made a statement wherein he's told categorically that, and he's, like Mr. Sibal brought out, that, he's challenged actually Xi Jinping. He's told him very categorically that we mean business. Now, remember this thing that it is not just the military that goes to war, it is the nation that goes to war. And therefore, all elements of national power, starting from political, diplomatic, economic, informational, psychological, financial.
You said it, General Bikram Singh. We are getting breaking news. This is the first economic decision that has been taken, and in this economic decision, top sources in the government have told me isolation of China, punishment of China has begun. It begins with the Telecom Ministry. The Telecom Ministry is going to rework its tender for BSNL's 4G upgradation. Chinese companies will not be allowed to participate in the new tender that's going to be put out for BSNL 4G upgradation. In fact, the Telecom Ministry is also likely to meet with all private telecom operators and ask them to avoid and to do away with using Chinese telecom companies for their networks. Madhav Das Gopalakrishnan, senior editor, joins me live on this big breaking story. Madhav, the first move has been made. We've been saying India will punish China, and the economic hitback begins right here on the Newshour tonight with the decision coming in from the Telecom Ministry.
Well, yes, in fact, Navika, this question had been put forth because, telecom and electronics are two areas where China has a huge influence. And this is a massive, massive development where, in fact, the telecom ministry has decided to rework the tender as far as BSNL's 4G upgradation is concerned. Now, this also has important bearing because we know another telecom company of China, Huawei, is very, very interested and very keen as far as the 5G upgradation is concerned. As and when that happens in any point of time in the future, at that point of time also will a similar policy be adopted. This is, of course, in the case of a PSU, that is BSNL, where this massive development has taken place. But in the future as well, when it comes to manufacturing, when it comes to telecom, will a similar policy really be taken as far as the government of India is concerned, vis-a-vis China and Chinese manufacturing companies as well as telecom companies? This is a very, very important development, no doubt, and thereby certainly in the wake of what has happened thus far, the process of formal decisions such as these vis-a-vis Chinese companies, can this be sustained in the longer run? Because this will be a very important question as far as India is concerned. Navika.
Well, there have been reservations on using Chinese telecom equipment for years now, and I've been covering this right since the early 2000s, 2001, when they were working out of Bengaluru, where they had large number of Chinese company people also operating from there. There were requests from the Intelligence Bureau, from the R&AW, that they should be monitored and there should be Indians who should be put. When other big telecom companies came in, there were objections in many cabinet meetings where objections were raised on the issue of Chinese telecom companies having linkages to Chinese intelligence as well as Chinese military operating out of India. But with the passage of time, I think between 2005 and 2014, we let our guard down. Today, are we paying the price of that? We don't know. But the fact is, the Modi government has hit right back with taking the first decision to punish China, keeping China telecom companies out of first the BSNL 4G tender, and now also taking up the issue with private telecom operators. Thank you, Madhav, for joining me. Let's go across and look at how is this playing out politically. The Prime Minister was very emphatic on Uri and Pulwama revenge. I want to play out that soundbite because the Prime Minister today, when he made that statement, stood up to the same resolve. But our political class probably doesn't quite get it. Let's listen in to the Prime Minister first, and then, of course, the opposition and their questions, which continue to grow even at such a sensitive situation the country is facing. Listen in.
आतंकवादी कान खोल के सुन ले, ये देश इस बात को कभी भूलने वाला नहीं है। आतंकवाद के सामने न हिंदुस्तान झुका है, न हिंदुस्तान झुकेगा। आतंकवाद को परास्त करके रहेगा। पुलवामा हमले के गुनाहगार, पुलवामा हमले के साजिशकर्ताओं को उनके किए की सजा जरूर मिलेगी। आतंकी संगठनों और उनके आकाओं ने जो हैवानियत दिखाई है, उसका पूरा हिसाब किया जाएगा।
चीन की सीमा पर हमारे 20 वीर सैनिकों की शहादत ने पूरे देश की अंतरात्मा को हिलाकर रख दिया है। मैं इन सभी बहादुर शहीदों को श्रद्धा के साथ नमन करते हुए दिल की गहराई से श्रद्धांजलि देती हूँ। साथ ही प्रार्थना करती हूँ कि उनके परिवारों को यह दुख सहने की शक्ति दे।
Party meeting is also okay because all party meetings sometimes, all the political parties, they belong to the government. So there will be no problem for that. That is okay. Practically or technically it is not wrong. It is correct. It is correct, but we are proud of our nation. We have to fight together. If there is anything come from the enemy, we have to fight the battle together. That I believe so. আমাদের দেশকে কেউ আঘাত করুক এটা আমরা চাই না। আমাদের দেশকে কেউ আক্রমণ করুক, আঘাত করুক আর আমরা চুপচাপ বসে থাকবো তা নয়। বাট একটা জিনিস মনে রাখবেন যে এর দুটো সাইড আছে, একটা ওয়ার করছে আর একটা নেগোসিয়েশন আছে, ডিপ্লোম্যাটিক চ্যানেল আছে। সুতরাং what channel will be useful, that let the government of India to decide.
Well, there have been many comments that have been coming in questioning the Indian government. But first, let's take a look at the lies that China has put out. When India said that China has erected a structure in Galwan after disengagement talks, that's what the External Affairs Minister said today in his conversation with his counterpart in China. China says India forces broke consensus and that was reached at the military level talks. Look at the lies that China peddles. Chinese side took premeditated and planned action is what India said. China says Indian troops crossed the LAC, provoked deliberately. India said Chinese responsible for the violence that resulted in casualties. China says Indian started the fierce fight. India said that the fact of the changes on the ground violates status quo. China says India must immediately stop all provocative actions. And India says unprecedented will seriously impact bilateral relationship. China says mustn't underestimate will of China to safeguard their territorial integrity. That's what China really says. But in our own country, we have politicians who come out and ask the Prime Minister on what his resolve is. And let me get in our esteemed panel tonight. GVL Narasimha Rao, Member of Parliament and National Spokesperson, Shehzad Poonawalla, RSN Singh, Sushant Sareen, Ghansham Tiwari, National Spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party, Tehseen Poonawalla, political analyst, and Dr. Dinesh Vashne, leader of the CPI. I want to ask you, Sushant Sareen, first off the bat, the government has decided to hit back and punish China. And the first move comes from the Telecom Ministry by banning Chinese equipment in one tender of BSNL and then going on to ask telecom operators to do away with Chinese equipment in their networks. You think this is a beginning?
I think it's a very, very important beginning, and I think it's extremely important that we take this forward. By no means can this be enough. Look, I think, Navika, it's a scandal that the public sector company BSNL, which is basically responsible for all government communications, is buying equipment from companies directly linked with the Chinese military. And if a colleague of mine has done a fabulous study on Chinese 5G, and I would really recommend all your audience to look at that paper on 5G. And he has come out and he has described how every single Chinese company is obliged by Chinese law to share all information with the Chinese government. And yet our public sector companies have likely been purchasing equipment which I suspect would certainly be used by government communication, when ministers talk to each other and all sorts of other things. Now, how much more foolish can we be than what we were being until now? So I think it's a very good thing if this particular thing has been stopped. I think it's extremely important that the Chinese be removed from all critical infrastructure insofar as whether it's physical infrastructure or it's any of the digital infrastructure. After all, the Chinese have proved themselves to be an enemy country. A friendly country does not do what happened day before night. And if it is an enemy country, then I think it is important that we treat it as such. So yes, the telecom tenders is the first thing on which you have to move. But I would strongly suggest that, just yesterday, for example, the Maharashtra government has signed some kind of an MOU, although the MOU does not mean that investment is actually coming in. But fat contracts are being given to Chinese companies on whether it's the Delhi Metro, whether it's expressways which are being built out here.
Fair point. Let me take that to Tehseen Poonawalla. Tehseen Poonawalla, will you today congratulate the Prime Minister that the first action has begun, and the first action is actually on the economic front, where it will hurt China the most, because Indian imports from China are at a level which is equal to the defense expenditure of China. So we might as well finance the People's Liberation Army.
Namaskar, ma'am. Let me begin by offering my tributes to the martyrs who laid down their lives so we can have this debate here on Times Now. And I'm a very broken man. Ma'am, I'm broken because regularly I appear on Times Now on your prestigious show, which is the #1 show in the country. And GVL Narasimha Rao sir and other BJP spokespersons all these days were lying, which the government exposed today, telling us that China was not in Indian territory. Now you, ma'am, clarified that the MEA clarified China entered Galwan Valley and they martyred our soldiers. The only question that I want to ask before congratulating Mr. Modi is, why did our soldiers lose their lives and why did the BJP spokespersons lie on Times Now, the #1 channel in the country, for so many days? Because they kept saying, ma'am, that China is not in Indian territory. That's all I want to know. These guys are liars.
You know, Tehseen Poonawalla, these questions can be raised in the all-party meeting. I want to ask you, on a day this country has lost 20 of their braves, do you want to speak in a folk tongue just like the Chinese do? I want to ask you, GVL Narasimha Rao, while the government is readying a plan on the political front, on the diplomatic front, on the military front and on the economic front, there is a battle plan which is ready on all of these 4 fronts. At such a time, do you think the opposition should be asking such questions to the Indian government? Can't you trust Mr. Tehseen Poonawalla, the government, to do the right action, to take the right decision at a time which will be in favor of this country? Mr. GVL Narasimha Rao?
They lied on your show, man.
Navika, we have a very, very peculiar situation in this country. Possibly no other democracy in the world would be experiencing such a situation where the opposition has time and again repeatedly abused its own army, tried everything to demoralize the Indian armed forces, and no other country, the armed forces are questioned like they have been questioned in surgical strike, in Balakot airstrike, and the Congress party, Rahul Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi have certainly done everything to demoralize their armed forces, disrespect them. They have absolutely no locus to talk about it today. Okay, but we are unfortunately saddled with a opposition like the Congress, and therefore some amount of discussion will certainly happen, but this is not an opposition that the nation can trust. This is an opposition that has been rejected for exactly the kind of anti-national rhetoric and propaganda. They cannot differentiate between their political opportunism and national interest. I think the Congress party, Rahul Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi, they will have to apologize to this country 100 times before they can raise any questions. We will certainly answer all the questions that people should know. But this is not an opposition that has any credibility. This is not an opposition that can be trusted by people.
Credibility apart, Ghanshyam Tiwari, it's not the question of credibility, it's also the question of responsibility. You know, it's very good for a democracy to have a tough opposition. It's not a fact that is new learning for India. The fact of the matter is there are timings that are important. Is this the timing for Mr. Rahul Gandhi to continue to pinprick and nitpick the government? You know, this tweet that he's put out for the defense minister, you know, at the moment, you know, the defense minister commands the entire force that is sitting. He sits and plans every strategic military movement. At such a time, should Mr. Rahul Gandhi be questioning the defense minister, being ironical with him, you know, being absolutely critical of him at this point in time? Ghanshyam Tiwari?
Well, Navika, with our brave hearts martyred, everyone in the nation has a broken heart today. And in the face of it, right, we look at last 7 days what happened. Last 7 days, we saw the defense minister addressing silly political rallies online called Jan Sawad rallies. There was no election, but he was addressing rallies. Last 7 days, this government nudged the media to celebrate victory when there was no victory. Last 7 days, this government kept the nation in dark. They were misled by the Chinese, and in turn, they misled the nation. Notwithstanding this, last 6 years, this government has given more business to China than the past 5 governments. Notwithstanding this, Akhilesh Yadav ji has openly said that in the measures that this government takes, economically and otherwise, against China, we will stand and support those measures by the government. We as a nation will speak in one voice. But let us make sure that the failures of this government has led the country to this situation. where economically they have benefited China in the past 6 years, and militarily they have not stood up. When the Chief Minister Modi used to say that we must look China in the eye, as Prime Minister, he and his spokesperson chose to look the other way, because just like GV Narasimha Rao ji was speaking today, right now, for BJP, showing lal aankh to the opposition is far more important to showing lal aankh to China. Doing business with China is far more important than looking at
GVL Narasimha Rao. Respond before I get in Shehzad Poonawalla.
No, we are dealing with the hostile neighbors in the way a strong country like India would. We are dealing with them very firmly. We have our forces. We have suffered casualties. We have our brave soldiers have been martyred because in the line of duty they did not allow China to set up a post on our side. We have pushed them beyond the LAC. But the problem is I cannot forget the opposition, because it is the India's opposition which is actually conniving with the hostile neighbors. I make that charge with all sincerity and all conviction at my command. You had Rahul Gandhi, who was secretly meeting Chinese ambassadors at a time with his entire family, as if they were engaged in a private family entertainment. You have such a meeting without the knowledge of India's foreign ministry at a time when we were having a standoff at Doklam. Would any serious opposition party
Ghanshyam Tiwari responding to you. Ghanshyam Tiwari.
Well, Navika ji, I'll say one thing. In the last 6 years, more BJP and RSS leaders, ministers have traveled to China than all
okay. We do it as
combined.
But then
Their penchant and love to do business with China and claim victory with every meeting has led the nation to this situation where on media they can misguide the nation. But the reality is,
Mr. Ghanshyam Tiwari किसको पाठ पढ़ा रहे हैं? 2005 में मुलायम सिंह यादव was supporting the Congress party in the UPA government. Who allowed Chinese telecom companies to come in then? Who allowed Chinese companies to participate in power?
In July 2017,
sir, can you hear me?
For its
power generation plants, Chinese boilers were coming in. Who allowed that? It was the UPA government backed by Mulayam Singh Yadav. Let me get in Shehzad Poonawalla. Shehzad Poonawalla, who opened the floodgates for Chinese companies to come into the various infrastructure sector. Can you remind Mr. Ghanshyam Tiwari and Mr. Tehseen Poonawalla, who seem to have forgotten their own history and their own decisions taken during the UPA era?
Navika, it is not necessary for me to, explain anything to the spokespersons of Xi Jinping and Global Times. I mean, they are getting their information from Xi Jinping and CCP. So it's waste of time for me to explain. In fact, I'm surprised that you have called members of not just the Indian Communist Party, but also the Chinese Communist Party. Having said that, Navika, let me just make a few points and I will end my points in another 30 seconds. देखिए, जब भी भारत दिखाता है दम, and after this move on the BSNL issue, we have taken even a कदम. राहुल गांधी, तहसीन पूनावाला, घनश्याम तिवारी और चाइना को लगता क्यों है इतना गम? अब 43 चीनियों को किया हमने कम, पर इनको सेना पर भरोसा है कम, पर ये जी जिनपिंग पर रहते हैं मम. इनसे सवाल पूछे, जो सवाल पूछना है. Tehseen, I have heard Tehseen Poonawalla is being sent to the all-party meeting by Rahul Gandhi on 19th, but he must raise these questions there, but at least make one comment from the INC official handle, or from the Samajwadi official handle, or from that Communist Party JNU wing official handle, that we condemn Mr. Xi Jinping. Not one tweet. I mean, I know that you are abiding by the Red Book of Mao, but at least have one tweet against the Chinese, but not a word against the Chinese. And it is really shocking, not just the earphones that are plugged into Tehseen Poonawalla's ears, but his entire ideology, and even his leaders seem to have more affiliation with China than to stand with the colonel that has lost his life, or with the Indian soldiers that have lost their lives. The only thing from Balakot, surgical strike, every time they find an opportunity, they raise a question on India, but never do they open their mouth on Pakistan or China. And therefore, Tehseen Poonawalla, I ask you today, why is the Congress Party and the Communist Party shy of saying a word against Xi Jinping? ऐसा क्या है, ऐसी क्या चुनौतियां हैं आपके सामने कि आप नहीं बोल सकते, और अगर नहीं बोल सकते तो आपको चाइनीज कांग्रेस पार्टी बुलाऊंगा मैं.
Ma'am, can I answer? Please,
Respond.
very brief.
Respond.
Shehzad Poonawala does not even know the name
Congress
of Colonel
should
B.
respond.
Santosh Babu. Shehzad Poonawala does not even know the name of Colonel B. Santosh Babu. That he has to say the Colonel, he can't even take the name of a martyr on this channel. And that precisely is the point.
Is that the point you want to make? Is that the point you want to make, Tehseen Poonawala? I think it is so trite to try and accuse somebody of this. Are you saying you are a bigger patriot than Shehzad Poonawala?
May I finish my point? Thank you. It is precisely this.
Navika.
All bluster, all talk,
Navika.
and no action.
Navika,
What is the action that Rahul Gandhi has shown? Apart from firing salvos at Rajnath Singh, the defense minister, and yesterday firing salvos at the prime minister, what has Rahul Gandhi done? Has he once condemned China? Let me ask you this, fair and square, has he once condemned China? Colonel RSN Singh, आपने सुना राहुल गांधी को एक लफ्ज भी कहते हुए चाइना के खिलाफ? कर्नल आरएसएन सिंह आज ये देश को पेट्रियोटिज्म का पाठ पढ़ाने जा रहे हैं। कल महाराष्ट्र सरकार ने एमओयू साइन किया है चाइना की कंपनी के साथ और आज ये देश को पेट्रियोटिज्म का पाठ पढ़ाएंगे?
नहीं, I don't want to get into any specific cases, but I must tell you one thing, that the erstwhile Soviet Union had lot of hard power, but it didn't have money. The Chinese have money, and believe me, 3% of their total, of the project money, wherever they undertake in foreign countries, is just, set aside for bribing. So what is happening, you see all these newspapers, Washington Post and etc., how they have been bought and how politicians in USA have been bought. This gentleman in Ethiopia, who became the head of the WHO, he was also eating out of the hands of the Chinese as health minister of Ethiopia. And that is how. So we know, everywhere, in India is no exception. India is no exception. Everybody knows. All these tint, mint, sint, all these things, you find out where are they getting money from. All those जिनकी दुकानें बंद हो गई, जो टिंट मिंट सिंट चला रहे हैं, आप पता कर लीजिए कहाँ से उनका ये है. And one newspaper and a magazine, you see that glossy magazine that publication from South publishes. How does it sustain itself financially? I know the economics of publishing, so I am telling you. Now, having said that, let's come back to the debate. See, somebody made a point that why we did it. The Chinese were integrated into this entire global business system. They were part of the WTO. One never expected that they will behave in this manner. So everybody integrated. Americans also integrated in that entire that world. And now today the Chinese are isolated. Nobody will touch them with a barge pole for some time. I don't know. I'm not a soothsayer. I can't say what is going to happen. But 2-3 things I must tell you. One, at the operational level, this narrative of ye dhakka mukki push and shove is over. I can predict that. I can predict that. First, we should have never embarked on this kind of a narrative. Never. It is unsoldierly. The second thing that is going to happen, what has happened is that a major newspaper of Taiwan News, has published a cartoon, and that says many things. It shows Lord Ram in the air, by way of Modi, targeting, shooting an arrow at a dragon.
I object.
So if the
Lord Ram. I object.
1 minute, you object, you object. Chalo.
Don't insult my Lord Ram.
नहीं.
Don't insult
हम तो
man is not responsible.
नहीं, हम तो बुत परस्त लोग हैं. हम तो काफिर हैं भाई, हम तो काफिर हैं. हम बुत परस्त लोग हैं.
I object to it.
अरे यार छोड़ो ना, अब तो डेयर कर लिया ना यार. अरे भैया कार्टून की बात कर रहा हूँ यार. एक कार्टून इज अ कार्टून. This is not Charlie Hebdo, by the way. नहीं. अरे सर, अरे ड्रामा मत करो यार, ड्रामा मत करो. ये कार्टून इज अ कार्टून.
No.
नहीं
सर, ये चार्ली हेब्डो नहीं है.
Well, gentlemen, calm down. Sushant Sareen coming in. Well, today, RSN Singh, today is not the time to talk about cartoons, but Sushant Sareen wants to come in, and so does Dinesh Vashne. Dinesh Vashne, I want to ask you, there has to be a time and place for the opposition to question the government. At a time yesterday when the government was trying to assess and find out how many of their boys, their soldiers had been injured, trying to find out the details about the incident, and try to find out and connect through the satellite images on how much this was a premeditated move by China. You know, we had opposition leaders who were firing salvo after salvo on Prime Minister Modi, almost as if he was representing China. And today, again, when the Prime Minister has made a statement, has called for an all-party meeting just 48 hours later, once again, the opposition parties will just not back down. Is this the time to ask questions of the Prime Minister, or is this the time for unity amongst political parties so that we can take the decisions that the Prime Minister and the Modi government and the Telecom Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad seem to be sitting upon, which is how to throw out Chinese companies and hurt them economically?
First of all, let me express the condolences to all the family members of the martyr soldiers and officers of the Indian Army at Galwan Valley on behalf of the CPI. Second thing, I would like to tell you one thing. Our stand is very clear that we stand with the government of India, and we believe that both the countries, we request the Chinese government also as well as Indian government to maintain the status quo at the Chinese border. They should vacate our territories. They have come to till the finger one, we have come to know. It is the government of India who are saying that they have not entered into the Indian territories from last 2 months. And hence, cautioning the government and the Prime Minister is not that we are not united with the country. We stand united in the country as far as national territorial integrity of the India is concerned, as far as our national security is concerned. But the foreign policy cannot be one person centric. Unfortunately, Modi ji have led the Indian foreign policy to one person centric. As far as Shehzad Poonawala condemn word is used, please ask Shehzad Poonawala, let GVL Narasimhan or Prime Minister Modi or Finance Minister use the word condemn Jeeping. Show me the word condemn.
Navika, why is there no official condemnation by his party of the Chinese government and its actions?
Have you condemned China, Mr. Vashne? Have you condemned China?
No condemnation of the Chinese government and the PLA by the Communist Party of India, Marxists. Can you please ask these questions?
GVL Narasimha Rao is showing some statement. GVL Narasimha Rao.
Navika. Communist Party of India. I am not a leader of any other Communist Party. We have to defend the Indian interests. We have to defend the Indian territories. We have to condemn the martyrdom of our soldiers, killing of our soldiers. GVL, it is you who were lying to the nation from last 2 months.
One minute, Dinesh Vashne, there's a big allegation made by GVL Narasimha Rao. Just calm down. Can we put down the fader of Dinesh Vashne? GVL Narasimha Rao, what is the allegation against Sitaram Yechury?
Okay, there is a tweet by Mr. Sitaram Yechury, and he attaches a statement of the CPIM, a major party in India, de-escalate the situation on the LAC. They are so reverential towards China, they find it difficult to even name China. In the entire one-page statement, China is not even named. In his tweet, China is not named. What are you scared about, Mr. Dinesh Vashne? What are you scared about?
Sushant Sareen, at a time when this country needs to get together to punish China, and that punishment can be at various levels. It can be militarily, diplomatically, exposing China on the world stage. It can be economically, as decided by the BSNL tender to keep Chinese telecom companies out. But we have an opposition which is busy throwing stones at the Prime Minister himself. Do you think this adds to the power of India on the global stage? Or do you think these people, instead of fighting with China, they actually have their guns trained on Modi?
Navika, I'm a little conflicted on this. See, I have nothing against the opposition and the opposition actually asking questions from the government. I just wish the questions that they were asking of the government were more reasonable, were more sensible, and were going to promote the national interest. Unfortunately, the temptation of taking pot shots, and this is across the political spectrum, I think overpowers these people, and that kind of vicarious pleasure which they take of trying to show the opponents down, I think that distracts from it. Otherwise, I'm very happy that I live in a country where I have an opposition which can question the government rather than living in a totalitarian state.
Shehzad Poonawalla, do we need to learn lessons from people like Mr. Tehseen Poonawalla, who will not condemn China, who will not look at the timing of when they question the Prime Minister, but expose India's flanks at a time when the country needs to be united?
Navika, the problem is that those who did nothing after 26/11, despite Fali Major telling them to go and attack those camps, are today questioning a man who did Balakot, who did surgical strike, and who did the surgical strike in Myanmar, and they are the ones questioning Mr. Modi and Mr. Tehseen Poonawalla. I have forgotten no names of martyrs, but you have forgotten what is your Raj Dharma and Rashtra Dharma, because you're only interested in Sonia Dharma and Rahul Dharma and China ka Dharma. So please remember Rashtra Dharma, and please remember Desh Hit, not Parivar Hit. Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, the political bickering in India is neither new nor is it going to end anytime soon. But it is the resolve of the Indian country, of the Indian people, and of our soldiers that will keep this country safe. And today, as we actually pay our respects to all those families who gave us their sons to guard our country, to keep our territorial integrity intact. I would request all my panelists to stand up and pay their respects to our martyrs, these martyrs who laid down their lives to keep this country safe. And the Prime Minister's word is that their sacrifice won't go waste. Let's pay our homage to these martyrs.
Thank you.